people are always asking who's going to come down the steps, what's going to happen. So I reached out to him. I said, you need to start, using the steps to your advantage in the show. So shout out to Josh and shout out to John Luke, as they call him, JL, excuse me.
Yeah, big fans of those guys. We've been fortunate enough to build a relationship with them this offseason, and it's been phenomenal for us. And, we both love their show, and anything that they have a part of, we want to help them out any way we can. So I agree. Good to have Josh.
I can honestly say, I mean, when you're broadcasting or you're writing, I mean, the expo at the end of August is going to be fun, but I can't tell you, I've never had a bad experience on a broadcast. I've never had a bad experience with someone. Like if you two were to gang up on me and make fun of me and put me down, I could probably chalk that up to being a bad experience, but everything, it's just fun, learning other people, connecting and growing. It's something, it's very undervalued. People don't pay attention to it much.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how many great people there are in our industry.
Tons. Everyone always shines the light on the negativity, the bad, and this guy did this or this girl did this, and it's too much of that. And again, just like as it stands now in the front of my mind, all that stuff on like Stephen A. Smith or all those guys, what they do is that's what they're trying to invoke bad emotions. Like that's where they get all their viewers and ratings, and they've turned it into multi-million-dollar contracts, and that's what they do. People don't realize, we hold all the power. Seriously, if we were to shut our TVs off and quit RTing that stuff and commenting on that stuff, they would just dry up and go away. But the more the fanning the flames is the saying, right? The more you pay into that negativity and awfulness, the stronger it gets. People don't understand. We have the power.
Absolutely. And the positivity is one of the things that led to me following you in the first place and building a relationship, the Twitter relationship, I guess I should say, that we have, because you rise above all that garbage. And I do seek out the positivity. It's why I'm, following guys like John Luke and Josh and Rick and Brad and you. And my inner circle, for lack of a better term, is full of positivity and not negativity. And Craig is another member of our team, is a massive piece of that. So that's what we like to do. We're here to help people and have some fun. Like at the end of the day, man, it's not that big.
I do want to announce something real quick.
Sure.
He messes it up. I get it. Yeah. We're carrying me and Rob are carrying the broadcast while you're unpausing.
Apparently, I forgot to hit the go live button. So at the beginning, we weren't live. We are live now. We are good everywhere. But I knew I was going to mess this up. This is my first time using the StreamYard software, and I could have swore I hit it, but apparently I didn't. So
good.
Chris, I know you already did it once, but I need you to introduce yourself again because I want everybody to hear all the good stuff.
Yeah, I'll keep it simple. I'm Chris, aka at Detroit Beastie. I'm not a big, promo guy, right? Because I'd rather use the time to, talk about what we're doing or to shed light on some other, realm of positivity or anything. Special Olympics baseball game today got rained out. I mean, it's the weather here in Michigan has been insane here. Went from the Undroppables, nothing but love for those guys. I'm with Team Riser Fall now, and I can strictly 100% focus on DFS, anything. Baseball's in season right now, football, hockey, basketball. So look to see my face more often, especially in the morning.
Awesome. So where at in Michigan are you?
I'm about 15-20 minutes north of Detroit. So, I mean, I can hop on the freeway I-94 and be down there in 12 minutes if I'm, zooming.
I'm in northern Indiana, so I was just wondering how far away we were. So it's about 3 hours to Detroit for me. Okay, so as I was saying before we were live, when we thought we were live, we are doing a 4-round startup Superflex draft. Most important part of your draft is the first, not just first 4 rounds, 4 to 6 probably, but these 4 picks are pivotal for early success in Dynasty. So we're here to talk about that aspect. Now, one of the first things that we're going to hear today is Cam Akers, who was going in the second round of a lot. I've seen him as high as the back end of the first in some. Chris,
yes,
are you taking him in the first 4 rounds of a Superflex draft now? And if not, where could you see yourself taking a gamble on Akers after the Achilles tear?
Yeah, and first and foremost, what an awful, brutal thing to wake up to. I mean, it's like one of those things where, you know, you remember where you were. I mean, I was having a bowl of cereal this morning and I saw it, and your initial reaction is it's not real. You know, all the hoaxes and nonsense people do on social media, and it's just awful. I'm a big Cam Akers guy. I have him in my 14-team full IDP dynasty here, and no, obviously he will, you know, be taken out of the first few rounds. I would be comfortable probably after the 6th, and I still don't think I would touch him there. And again, it's awful, right? Because, you know, the young kid, he's going to break out and do wild things this season. I was fully expecting it. I was all in on Cam Akers this year. Now we have to have the conversation. Is it ever going to happen now? He's going to be out for a full year, 12, 13 months. And when he comes back, is his job going to be there? We know how quick moving, you know, running backs, you know, it's a turnstile, right? Or just sports teams in general. Will he still have his gig? Will he still get, you know, we were looking at him this season, 20, 25 plus touches a game. I mean, and that's realistic. I mean, that was his projections. So this time next season, can we say Cam Akers is going to get 25 carries, you know, 20 carries, you know, 5 targets, something along those lines. And I don't know, so much so as that you said, Rick, you know, the first 5 rounds of your draft, you have to hit home runs, you know, and if even this time next year, I don't think I'd be touching Cam Akers in the first 4 rounds this time next year. So there's no way I would do it this year. And again, it's awful. It's brutal. And I'm nothing but the best for the kid, but it's a slippery slope here. And hopefully, you know, he comes back just as strong, but realistically, who knows if that's going to happen? We have to, you know, prepare for the worst, as they say.
Sully, what do you think?
Kind of echo the same thoughts. You know, I just added Cam Akers in the 3rd round of my Scott Fishbowl draft. So the news wasn't great for me personally, but honestly, you know, Akers showed us all the signs of a breakout running back the way he finished last season and into the playoffs. I don't know where I take him now, to be totally honest with you. It's a little bit fresh for me. I think he's probably, like Chris said, probably rounds, you know, 7 to 9, maybe 10. I really question whether or not we ever see anything resembling what Cam Akers could have been again. It's a nasty injury, and it's a really nasty injury for a running back who has to live and make his money cutting on the football field off of that rebuilt Achilles. So I don't know. I would say that probably where I'm comfortable taking him, he's probably already going to be off the board, so it won't be an issue for me. But yeah, it sucks. Like I really had high hopes for him, and we'll have to see. Hopefully he comes back, proves us all wrong, and is back in this top 4 round conversation sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I will echo what you guys have said. And just so you know, Chris, you are up on the draft. The hard thing about figuring out this situation, and I was talking to Sully about this before the show. I went today and I was looking at not just football players, but just athletes in general that have had this injury. And we have rarely ever seen it from somebody in their early 20s. At least somebody that's relevant, right? We've seen Dominique Wilkins had it in the early 90s. He came back in his 30s just fine in basketball. You know, wasn't it Durant was just had his couple years ago, and he looks to be fine. So there are guys that come back in their sports. In football, linebackers and running backs have had the hardest time coming back from that injury out of all the different positions. But at 22, I have a little more hope. Excuse me, for Cam Akers. I've always liked the kid. He was my number 2 back in last year's class. But I do agree with you guys. The top 4 rounds, really, really hard to take a shot on him. And we know that it's whoever's going to get the touches at running back is going to have some value for you. So taking him ahead of some of these other guys that are in that range, we just don't know if he'll ever get that again. We don't know if he'll ever be that top guy in a backfield. So I would agree. And then after the 4th, it would really be determined on who is falling where at running back and at wide receiver. Until I feel like I'm taking a risk on whoever I'm taking in that spot. So that would be how I would approach Cam Akers if you have any startups. coming up here in the next couple months.
My initial reaction, if I may, real quick, Rick, it's just a massive bummer, right? That's the first thing that popped in my head this morning. It's like, if you can equate it to real life, because we know fantasy sports is all fun and games. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. Have fun, connect, broadcast, write, and all that. But this is a living, breathing human being. This is what he does for a living. And in a way, to talk, I feel it's weird, to say, well, I don't like Cam Akers now because of his ADP and too much risk. It's almost like I feel like, and this is the biggest bummer that I can't get over right now. It's almost feels like the one that got away, right? We're all men. I'm sure we've dated, women, high school, college, whatever. We all have one that we maybe we screwed up and we wish we could get her, but the one that got away, and he didn't even really get started too. We saw like that late season surge was phenomenal, excited me and everybody else so much. And that's the biggest bummer that I can't get over. Will it ever materialize to anything? And if not, that would probably be my biggest moment that got away from me, if that makes sense.
I definitely get it. It kind of reminds me of Greg Oden in basketball. Young guy, a lot of talent, but got hurt early, and we'll just have to hope for Cam Akers' sake that it's not something that holds him back or continues to happen over the course of his career. So I'm hoping for a bounce back. I think the kid's got a lot of talent, and like you said, we've seen this with all the rookie running backs pretty much last year, other than James Robinson. But a lot of those guys got started late in the year. So any of them that would get hurt this year, it would just be tough because of after COVID and getting started late and then getting moved into their reps late. We haven't really got to see any of those running backs from last year and what they can really do outside of the guys that were the dark horses of the class. So hopefully this is not a trend that keeps happening with these young running backs. Really anybody, but I'm excited to see that class because I like those running backs a lot.
Absolutely. And really quick, in terms of the draft, I want to tell you that if you look at my first two picks, right, so Justin Herbert, head over heels for him. Trevor Lawrence is, by all means, is talked about like the second coming here. And the only reason I want to mention that, because in Superflex, we're trying to talk like, strategy and stuff. Rarely do I draft quarterback early in a Superflex mock. I just don't do it because, again, if you look at the board here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there was like 7 or 8 quarterbacks in the first round. And then on the turn, another 1 or 2. I love loading up on all the skill positions, just hammer home running back very early, like my first 3 or 4 picks, all running backs. And then boom, it kind of cuts the draft in half for me. I don't have to worry about running backs anymore. I can, it kind of, eases my mind, right? So if I go running backs early, wide receivers early, then I can cut that position in half. And then it kind of makes me feel better. I'm not rushing. I don't make a panic selection, which I know people do that as well, whether it's a 1 minute clock or, 8-hour clock. People do make panic decisions. So rarely do I take quarterbacks early in a super flex mock, but here it was just too good to be true for me. So I went with it.
Sully, where do you stand on your prioritization of quarterbacks in these Superflex drafts?
Well, I've gone quarterback here as well, and I don't ever draft Lamar Jackson, so that's kind of fun. But I'm the opposite. I really like to start off quarterback if I can. I just feel that, I started playing Superflex 2018 and really waited on quarterback like I was drafting in a 1 QB league the first year that I drafted my startup. And I find that it's just such a hard position to acquire via trade once you get into your seasons. So I'm much more focused on acquiring those in my draft. And in fact, I might grab more than, I like to have 3 who I feel are legitimate starting quarterbacks. But if I can get 4 or more, I will, because I know that people will come looking for that position, and then I'll be able to make some moves and find some skill position players in other avenues. And I'm also okay if I'm not lights out in year 1 or 2 in my league, and I can just kind of reload through rookie drafts. But I'm typically a quarterback, or 2 quarterbacks in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, for me, that second quarterback, like I don't mind taking one in the first, but that second one, I have to be real confident that he's got potential to be a top 6 to 8 guy. Because after you get past that, like everybody's so close. Drafting one of those guys in the top 3 rounds, I don't want. I would rather just get, a couple vets, older vets later that can put up the same type of production for 3 to 4 years, maybe. But when you get a guy like Herbert and Lawrence, those guys are guys that both have top 6 potential. Jackson and Burrow both have top 6 potential. Then you really separate yourself from the rest of the league at that position. But if you start getting into some of the guys that don't have that potential and you're taking them that early, I feel like you're losing out because a back end wide receiver 1 has more value to you than a back end quarterback 2 or a top end quarterback 2, if that makes sense.
Totally does.
And you know what, really quick, if I may, I find it when we draft, like right now, we know each other a little bit, but most times if you're doing like a dynasty draft of any sort, right? Superflex, whatever, 1 quarterback, whatever, you generally know who you're drafting with. So, their tendencies, if you log that stuff, or if you just known them your entire life here. But again, I've never claimed to be the smartest man in any room, but for some reason, when I start off a Superflex draft, I wait on quarterbacks because I feel like I can get over on people in the 4th or 5th round. I can grab Stafford or maybe not Tannehill because people are, going all in on Tannehill. But I in this mock right here, if this was real life, I would wait and I would have no issue grabbing, let's say, Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold, right? If I can just be competitive in year 1 or year 2, that's fine. So if I draft, let's play it out. If I draft Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold in 8th, 9th round, something like that. So that means I have 7 or 8 selections prior to that of just nonstop running back, wide receiver kind of thing here. And in a way, it's not sneaky. It's nothing new. I'm not saying anything profound here, but to me, I feel sneaky for doing that. And again, fantasy football should be fun, and if you makes you feel good about yourself, then that's what you're going to do, because that's certainly what I do, boys.
So I wanted to point something out here because this is something different that I have not seen. This is not a tight end premium league, but we had 3 tight ends go before we had 2 wide receivers go. And that's to your point where, like, Chris, in your spot, you could have had your top 2 wide receivers off the board on one roster,
Yes.
whichever 2 those guys are. And here we are with Kelsey going at the 2-1, Kittle at the 2-2, and Pitts at the 2-10 with a sandwich Justin Jefferson as the wide receiver 1 at 2-5. Have you guys seen this happen in a non-tight end premium? I feel like the tight ends are a little bit high in this draft.
I think Kelsey's okay where he went. Kelsey was kind of a wide receiver 4 last year, and I think he was wide receiver 8 the year before that. So I can get behind that. Kittle is a bit of a wild card for me. He has been a little bit banged up in the last couple of years. And he also has a whole lot of competition for passes that he hasn't had in previous years either. You're not going to find someone that's more of a Kyle Pitts guy than I am, but that's real early for me in a startup, non-premium. I just can't see myself taking Kyle Pitts before A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, Calvin Ridley. They're wide receivers that came off. But hey, if that's your guy and you want him and you don't think he's going to come back to you at what would that be, the 4-11 or whatever it is, then grab your guy. But I do think it's a little early.
And seriously, really quick, I got sniped by the computer at pick 9. That's insane. I've never seen that ever happen before. I didn't think anybody was going to be on Lamb in the last, 3 or 4 picks. So thank you, Team 9, computer. You stink.
Love seeing that.
I will say, though, that this, depending on your draft, like this is something with the tight ends that you could see happen in a real draft. It's not like it's so far out of line. Sometimes, so somebody picks Kelsey and then the next guy's like, well, I want to get Kittle because I didn't get Kelsey. So they take him because they don't want to wait the full round to see if he makes it. And then it starts a run, right? And it's always nice to be on the front end of a run or to be the benefactor of somebody that doesn't join the run and to get the value that drops at another position. Because no matter what position goes on the run, you're going to see value drop at other positions. So you either I like to zig when people zag. So I would be the guy that's not joining in on the run and be taking the value that's dropping at other positions.
If I'm the Kelsey manager that took him at 2-1, I'm loving how the second round played out because it's pushing back all that other skilled positional player skills to me coming back at the turn again. So you're right. Nothing better than being on the front of a run. Nothing worse than being on the end of one.
Yeah, too little, too late. I mean, that stinks. And I love that team at the end here. I can't see the who the owner is, but Barkley and Kelsey is a fantastic way to start, any draft.
Yep, absolutely.
Absolutely. And that brings up Barkley coming back from injury. This guy is still my favorite running back in the league if he's healthy. I still think that he's just immensely talented, but we're seeing this where last year he was like the 102, right behind McCaffrey, and Superflex, probably the 103 because there was like one quarterback ahead of him with Mahomes. Is a little bit different. Probably the 104 for me, 103 for me this year. Where do you guys stand on Barkley with him coming back from injury? Do you like him in the top half of the first round or the second half?
I'm all in on Barkley. In the most recent, the Scott Fishball draft, I drafted my first 3 picks went like this: Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb. So I'm all in. I mean, those 3 running backs make my head, explode. It's so insane. But Saquon, I have no issue with him. We know what the kid can do. I have no issue with any injuries. I never buy into all that nonsense, what you hear from other people, AKA what you call it, the peanut gallery, all that nonsense. We've seen him working. We've seen the photos. He's just looks fantastic. And, the biggest knock so far, like in the last month or two, people grasp at straws when they don't really have a hold on an argument, or they really can't, push their opinion in the way they want to. They always go to the low hanging fruit. And everything I've seen with Saquon Barkley is, we don't even know if he's going to be ready for week 1. I'm telling you now, Saquon Barkley will play in week 1 and he's going to smash. There's just no way around that fact, guys.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a self-plug, writing 50 articles in 50 days, and I'm down to the last 3, and the one I'm writing right now is Saquon Barkley. And these numbers are fresh in my mind because of that. So I think it was 2,027 total yards as a rookie with 17 touchdowns. Oh. In 13 games, 10 of which were after a high ankle sprain. He finished as a running back 10. Last year, he had a horrible week 1. The Steelers held him to, I think, 6 yards on 15 carries. And then in week 2, he goes down with a torn ACL. A high ankle sprain can happen to any running back, any player in the NFL, period, and so can a torn ACL. So forget the injury-prone stuff. And don't be surprised if Saquon has some trouble with his hamstring, which is incredibly common for guys coming back off of torn ACLs like Dalvin Cook. But he's my 3rd-ranked running back right now. I have CMC at 1, and I have Cook at 2, and Barkley's right there. In fact, they flip-flop each other almost daily. Yeah. I have no concerns with Saquon Barkley at all. If anything, the Giants' offensive line got a little bit better. I think Kenny Galladay's presence in the Giants' offense helps Saquon Barkley. It certainly helps Daniel Jones. If it can calm down Daniel Jones, that helps Saquon Barkley as well. So getting Saquon at the 112 is a great pick, in my opinion.
I agree 100%. Project Kev wanted you to know.
I saw. And he's in Detroit, too. Give me your address. I'll pull up right now, Kev.
Uh-oh. Starting beef on the snipes here. All right. Let's take a look.
Really quick. One more thing. When it comes to snipes, it's all fun and games. People talk about that all the time. But I've noticed, a select few of us, right? Writing and drafting and based on tiers is become big now. So getting sniped might be, gone. It might be old news here soon. Because if you have a tier, we all know what that means, right? So at my next pick, I have 5 or 6 guys in this one tier that I'm willing to take here. So snipes, sniping or snipers, all that, you're going to be old news here very soon. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. The only time it'll be a snipe is if it's the last guy in your tier, right?
Yeah, like absolutely.
If you're in tier 3 and it's the last guy you got, and then he goes, then you're getting sniped a little bit because you got to move to tier 4. But
I could spin that to I could sneak that last guy up into the tier just to say, well, I still got a guy for my tier. I'd like to think I could spin that to my advantage.
That's the beauty of objectivity, right?
Bingo, yes.
Oh, I just changed my rankings right now. You'd never sniped me.
That's the guy I wanted the whole time.
Yeah, you fell for it.
Sully just drafted the Jeopardy guy.
What is a league winner?
What is a league winner? So speaking of Aaron Rodgers, right? Because this is a very important. If there was no like ifs, ands, or buts about him playing this year, does he fall to the 4th round because of his age, or do you think this is a guy that's going in the second round?
Not a chance. And
not a chance. Yeah.
Truth be told, I picked him just so we would talk about him because as a Vikings fan. And it's kind of fun. This is like an NFC North here, right? Lions, Bears, and Vikings. We can shit talk Aaron Rodgers all we want, and no one's going to stop us. So, no, I think that he's still a back, like where you see Russell Wilson going. I think Aaron Rodgers goes before Russell Wilson. At least I would if I knew if he was playing for sure this year.
And realistically, I don't hate Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the guy is phenomenal football player. I mean, he's interesting. I mean, he has, hosting Jeopardy and doing all these, tweets with his A-list wife, actress. I mean, he's an interesting dude. There's no ill will with Aaron Rodgers. Totally. And I'm saying, if you want to come back in the league and play, that's fine. Just get the hell out of the NFC North.
Exactly.
I mean, I can't speak for you boys, but he's been a thorn in my side as a Lions fan since day one. So Aaron, come back. Who cares?
I watched the guy lose a leg in the first half against us, come back on all kinds of narcotics beat us and barely be able to do a post-game interview. But the guy would probably be one of my favorite players in the NFL if he played outside of our division. So if he goes to Denver, I have a lot of my very, very good friends are Packers fans, which it probably speaks more on me and the lack of taste and my low standards for friends. But I will be buying a jersey wherever he goes and be wearing it around them every time that we meet up. So could be a little bit of fun there.
You have at it, but that's one thing I will not do.
I will happily pitch in on that jersey. I would love for him to play elsewhere. I agree. He's a phenomenal football player. He's probably, in my mind, the second best quarterback I've ever seen. Peyton Manning is still my number one. But Aaron Rodgers has done so many things as a Vikings fan to us over the years. When it looks like he's dead, he just
rises
something out of a hat, and he makes guys that are really not good look really good.
Yeah, because he's had a lot of not really good guys in his career.
Like we joke and we laugh about the lack of weapons that he has. Thank God. Can you imagine if they drafted well the last 10 years, how bad it would be to be in this division with that team? My goodness.
Or signed a free agent.
Right.
What's shocking to me is I've mentioned this, the last month or two in the North. I don't mean to turn this, discussion into an NFC North discussion, but as it stands at this moment in time, by default, Kirk Cousins is the quarterback one in this division, and that's just mind-numbingly shocking to me.
Well, I said
pretty strange.
I said that right after the draft when Chicago got Fields. I said the Bears literally in the last week have went from having the worst quarterback situation in the division for long term to potentially the best one in the matter of 7 days just because of Aaron Rodgers. And that's something that as a Bears fan, I've never been able to say.
The crazy thing about the Bears is you have two quarterbacks that are better than any quarterback you guys have had in I don't know how long. Right? Like if Dalton starts week one.
Changing subject before I cry, because
if Dalton starts week one, it's still the best the quarterback that Allen Robinson has had maybe in his life. I don't know who his high school quarterbacks were, but his college quarterbacks sucked, and he's lived through what he's lived through in the NFL. So
I just saw a stat somebody posted.
I like the Bears this year.
Mitch Trubisky had, I think, 54 touchdown passes, and it's like 6th all time for the Chicago Bears or something stupid like that. So it has been sad in Chicago for sure. Is there anything else, Chris, in this draft specifically that stood out to you, and or is there something that you've seen another team outside of yourself do that you really liked as a strategy?
Well, I like again, I like what RotoHeat Sully did here right before our eyes. 3 quarterbacks in the first 4 picks, so you can tell, when he talks and what he says, he puts his money where his mouth is, right? And then if you look down, Coach Millie, studs at each position, real, kind of right. Jonathan Taylor, he's my RB1 for sure. Kyle Pitts potentially could be a tight end 1. Calvin Ridley might be a wide receiver 1. And the moment that San Francisco gives the keys to Lance here, he's going to make a huge, jump, top 10 for sure. Will he get into the, top 5 here? Trophy case number 2 overall, Josh Allen, stud pick. And then he backed it up with 2 of my favorite wide receivers in terms of rankings, AJ Brown and Tyreek Hill, 1A, 1B, however you want to put it. And then Joe Mixon. Everybody trashes Joe Mixon, especially this time of the year. June, July is like the dead zone of fantasy football. Not much is going on, but I love Joe Mixon. And then number 1, Jack Wagons, Patty Mahomes, Tannehill, and then 2 young, very studly, let's just say it, running backs, Gibby and Clyde Edwards-Helaire here. So I love the first overall pick, and then the rest was pretty standard. I could, kind of dice up every selection here, or every team that did it here, but everything's went pretty true to form, which is odd in today's day and age.
Quick one, have you guys been in a mock or in a startup where you've seen Taylor go ahead of CMC?
I have, yes. I think only 2 of them, and they were probably a month or so ago. And again, they were mocks. They weren't real life. This is what we're doing to play, but just mocks. So I see that. I love that idea. Everybody, not everybody, but certain people, they're so rigid. They don't want to think outside the box. They don't want to, draft and think abstract in a way, and it's not real. It's just a mock. As soon as we exit out of this, it goes away. It's not coming back. You're not playing with it. So play around with it a little bit, because those are the kind of things that you're going to be faced with in real life when the draft is meaningful. When that's the team you're going to play with, you're going to be given those decisions. And again, if you're like me, I write everything down. Seriously, mock drafts, real life drafts, all my DFS stuff. And again, write it down. Well, I drafted Jonathan Taylor as my first running back, 3rd or 4th overall, and then look at the next run of selections and think, well, in real life, if that happens, this is what I can I've seen it before me. In a way, playing around with a mock draft is in a way you can, see the future, right? We don't have a crystal ball, but if you draft silly in the way you don't want to do, get out of your comfort zone, log it, write it down, whatever. And in a way, you're able to see what other people do once you throw them kind of a monkey wrench into the gears.
Sully, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't disagree. I think mock drafting is the time to play around and see how things will kind of land for you. The reason that I brought up the Jonathan Taylor over CMC is in our Dynasty Facebook group. It came up in a comment today, and there was some conversations going back and forth. And I still have CMC kind of significantly ahead of Jonathan Taylor. And I was just sort of seeing what other people would have thought about that. I think, out of sight, out of mind, I think we forget how dominant Christian McCaffrey really is. I was pumping the tires for Saquon Barkley earlier. Saquon Barkley finished 0.3 PPR points behind Saquon Barkley's rookie season numbers of 2,000 total yards. So CMC is a force, and I don't see myself taking any running back ahead of him. And I was just kind of curious as to what others thought about that.
Yeah, first off, me and my stance on CMC. Obviously, the second year after 400 touches, we have seen a few running backs bounce back. But, I wrote about it last January, February, and we saw the effects of that 400 touch curse. And I will say that at the 3rd or 4th pick, it makes it very hard for me to invest that much in the CMC. That being said, I'm probably not taking anybody over him if I can trade back. If somebody else really likes him, I would probably try to do that first. But it's not, I don't think JT is unreasonable. I think with the way Barkley has fallen, you probably want to try to trade back and get Barkley later in the draft if you can. But it hasn't looked good over the last 20 years for running backs that reached that 400 touch mark. But
true.
we do know that Christian McCaffrey gets his in a little bit different way than all of them but Tomlinson, who did have down years the year after his 400 touches and then bounced back that second year after and had a long career. I don't think he's dead in the water, but as we talked earlier, those early picks are very, very vital. And if I can get some value out of that pick, then I'm probably trying to do that. But I don't think it's asinine for somebody to take Christian McCaffrey at 2 or back in a super flex. I think Patrick Mahomes should be the number one in super flex, and then the next 3 to 4 picks are kind of pick your poison of who you want there with Allen and a couple running backs and whatnot.
I actually have Kyler ahead of Allen right now.
Yeah, and I don't think that's crazy either.
No, I do too.
I think
the rushing upside. I mean, again, I'm not saying anything profound, low hanging fruit in a way, but Kyler had 11 touchdowns on the ground with his feet. I think he had he kind of hit a wall later in the season. I think he had 8 or 9 in the first 5 or 6 games of the season. Don't hold me to that. And then I remember the last 5 or 6 games, only 2, maybe 3. Again, all off the top of my head. Don't rake me over the coals for it. Anybody that's watching this now or will watch this, but the upside of rushing and the yardage and the touchdowns on the ground is just too juicy to pass up, especially in leagues that passing touchdowns are only 4 and a rushing touchdown is 6. And we know in terms of passing yardage, it's normally 1 point per 10 yards. The same thing with running yards here, but the touchdowns on the ground is just too juicy to pass up here.
I agree. Somebody over on Facebook, and I hate how this doesn't show me the names, but the JT pick is not unreasonable. All running backs eventually hit a cliff. I think CMC wins 2021, but how much longer? I remember people over investing in Gurley and Le'Veon Bell, and that is very true. I don't think there's a position in any other sport outside of maybe pitcher where the elite fall off so fast as a running back does in the NFL. We don't typically get the Gurley fade away for 13 years or the Adrian Peterson fade away for 12 years. Normally it's the Gurley situation where they're a top 6 running back 1 year. The next year they drop to like a back end running back 2, and then they're gone. And that's what we're seeing with the Gurleys and the Bells and the Melvin Gordons in that situation right now with Javonte Williams in Denver. I definitely agree with that sentiment.
I don't disagree with it. I just question it being Jonathan Taylor being the running back that went ahead of him, right? So we quickly forget how everyone's in air quotes, but Jonathan Taylor was a bust in week 12 last year, right? Everybody was upset. He wasn't producing. And then all of a sudden he catches lightning in a bottle, has an incredibly favorable schedule down the stretch, and credit to him, he crushed his opponents and he flew way up the rankings as a result. But, Christian McCaffrey played 2 games last year and he averaged almost 30 points in those 2 games. So I don't dispute the fact that everyone, Father Time is undefeated. Everyone has a cliff. It's why I'm championing the sell Derrick Henry campaign that I am. But at the same time, I don't know if Christian McCaffrey's anywhere near a cliff quite yet.
I agree. And really fast in terms of, Jonathan Taylor over Christian McCaffrey, I think that's just a product of, everything is available at our fingertips, our phones, our computers, Twitter, Facebook. Yeah. And again, it's always been, since I can remember, what have you done for me lately? Rob, I think you mentioned this 10, 15 minutes ago, the new shiny toy, right? He's gone and forgotten. And I think you worded it somewhere like that. But Jonathan Taylor, is young. He's going to get a ton of carries. He's the new shiny kind of object here. I know I should, before we went live, I showed you all the toys and comic books I have here in my office here. I mean, I've had some of them for 20 years, but when I get a new one, that's the one that I put front and center, boom, right above my camera here, because because it's great. And that's what we're seeing that with Jonathan Taylor right now. And again, there's all different kinds of fantasy football players. Not everybody is diehards like us three. Some people are casual fans. It's our work league or whatever. They check it once a week. They do waivers, set their lineup, and that's it. Nobody obsesses over it like we do. So in that case, casual fan might say, you know what? I like Jonathan Taylor. And then that's their exact argument. Oh, I saw him do it last season. He's young, blah, blah, blah. But realistically, Christian McCaffrey I would take Christian McCaffrey over Jonathan Taylor at this moment in time. Again, as I said, it's the dead zone, June and July. I might change my rankings this time tomorrow, but as it stands right now, Christian McCaffrey to me is the play here.
And to be clear, I really like Jonathan Taylor. Like, I think he's ranked 4th or 5th in my rankings. So
yeah, I would have Barkley up there in that conversation, but other than that, like I can't. I don't have any strong arguments against that. Here's my question, right? Because we're talking about this rookie running back, and I know Sully and I. Well, actually, first let's talk about what Off the Schneid said. He said he's not a big handcuff guy at all, but with how late Booker is going, you might as well take him late and cover yourself. Now, me personally, and I know Sully and I have talked about this a lot. I'm not a handcuff guy either. I feel like if you force a handcuff, you're burning a spot on your bench no matter what. You can't have value out of both of them in most cases, right? You have a couple backfields that we know are split. Kareem Hunt is not really a handcuff to Nick Chubb. He's going to be utilized no matter what. I like getting other people's handcuffs so that if their guy goes down, I either get extra value or I can trade for that guy and get value, right? But I will say if it happens naturally, then that's fine. I just don't force it. Like, I don't draft a guy a round or two early to get that handcuff to protect myself. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
I think it's a great question. It's a great topic. I think it all comes down to, roster configuration. It all comes down to, the type of fantasy football player you are. That's the beauty of all this thing. So all three of us could have different ideas, yet the end result, could be the same here. When it comes to handcuffs, I mean, you hear it's either yes or no, and there's no in between. When it comes to handcuffs, I enjoy handcuffing running backs, but there's a time and place for it. I'm not going to handcuff my running backs in July and August. Right when you're leading up, you can see how your season's going on. Are you going to make a playoff? Are you going to make the playoffs? Are you making a playoff push? There's a place and time here. In certain things, like Tony Pollard in Dallas, I don't consider him a handcuff. I think he's a specific case where he has standalone value. So to take a handcuff at this moment in time, mock or no mock, we all know people are legit doing startup dynasty teams right now. I'm with you, Rick. I wouldn't waste my time on a handcuff at this moment in time. Right now there's everything. Every roster spot is so precious with OTAs and summer camps coming up and preseason. We don't know how it's going to break down. So again, handcuff, it's a great move. I got no issue with it. I write a best handcuff to own running back every year. I think this year will be my 4th year in a row. I really do enjoy handcuffs, but there's a time and place for it. Don't jump the gun. Don't be too early, because I'm telling you right now, at this moment in time, every single one of our roster spots is precious cargo.
Sully, where do you fall?
It's definitely something that through conversations with you that I've changed my mind upon. So I used to have a mindset of I'd rather handcuff in Dynasty and not in redraft. I've actually flipped it totally the other way around. In Dynasty, in this situation, Booker holds a little bit of value only if Saquon gets injured, in my opinion. Now, that's probably not the greatest thing that's going to happen to your dynasty team, but I think you're probably rostering someone that has more upside than Devontae Booker, even if he's given keys to the car in New York. In a redraft league, I'm probably invested my first round pick or very there shortly after in Saquon. you can't screw up your first round pick in a redraft league. So handcuffing and something to that pick makes a little bit more sense to me. But I'm with you, Rick. I prefer to have other people's quote unquote handcuffs, because at the end of the day, if I draft Devontae Booker without Saquon Barkley, maybe I get a backhand RB2 out of it, or I trade him to you, the Saquon owner, for maybe a pick or something, a wide receiver that might help my team, or a flex or something else. So I think you and I are pretty aligned on the handcuff stuff.
All right. My last question here is in regards to 2020's rookie wide receivers. We only see, I'm only seeing 2. If I missed one, let me know. But Jefferson and Lamb are the only 2 that I see coming up. We had 5 rookies go in the first round of the NFL draft last year, and then another 4 or 5 in the second round. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but we were very, very high on these rookie wide receivers last year. We saw a lot of inconsistency. We saw some guys that popped that we didn't really expect, but it was a really weird year with the lack of camp. And we used to have this 3 year breakout for wide receivers, right? It took them some time to really hit their peak, but we've seen a lot of these guys lose value over the last year because of that real shaky rookie season. And then obviously Jamar Chase going there with T Higgins, Burrow dropping, Dak dropping. Do you look for a big step forward from a lot of these second year wide receivers after a full year of camp, and then hopefully having their healthy quarterbacks back in play? Where do you stand on those guys, Chris? Because I feel like we could get a big discount on a lot of those guys right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest discount of what we're talking about here is probably T Higgins, because Boyd has always been loved, and he's kind of like a folk hero in a way for fantasy sports, right? I can get a PPR machine, late in my draft, and now you add in Jamar Chase. So I expect T Higgins to do very well. Last season we saw he was basically quarterback proof. I know that's not a term people use often, but he went through multiple quarterbacks after Joe Burrow went down. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm almost certain he went, about 6 or 7 games in a row with no less than 6 receptions and or 60 plus yards here. So this kid, it has all it takes, and he's going to do well. Joe Burrow upright on his feet is going to be massive for this team, and especially for fantasy purposes. Lamb, expecting him to be a superstar. Never been a big Amari Cooper guy, just a personal issue of mine. I won't go into it. I just don't like Cooper. He just drives you crazy. He's hell. He's absolute hell to own. You never know. He's got the perma questionable tag next to him. So Lamb is going to take a big step forward and be a stud. Dak is back upright. We all know what he can do and what they lost when Dak went down. One guy I want to talk about real quick is Gabriel Davis. Now, he's been a darling the last few months in Buffalo, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I was on Gabriel Davis in week 3. He made his first appearance in bottom of the barrel in week 3, and he was probably one of the most talked about wide receivers in terms of my DFS content. And you look at what's going on there in Buffalo now, not much has changed. So why are people just now catching up to Gabriel Davis, or why now are people talking ill of him, right? We see these waves on social media all the time. Nobody knew about Gabriel Davis, then he was a sweetheart. Now he's being talked about too much, so I want to stay away from him. And then you get the people that say, so it's all over the place. It's all nonsense. You kind of have to make your own opinions and make your own decisions here. But I'm excited for Gabriel Davis in year 2 in Buffalo. High octane, nothing but passing there. We don't know how the heck the running back situation is going to strike out there in Buffalo. So I'm all in on Gabriel Davis.
Do you have any concerns with the efficiency drop off for Allen, similar to what we've seen with Lamar from, obviously after year 1, we were saying needs to be a better passer, lights out year 2, and then we see the drop off in year 3. Do you have any concern of that same kind of trend for Josh Allen?
No, absolutely not. Now, if you look at what he did last year, 4,500 yards, 37 passing touchdowns, 8 touchdowns on the ground. And again, I'm not saying anything world shaking or profound here. I see Josh Allen having almost the exact same season this year as last year. And I say same within reason. Give me like,
Right. Yeah.
Some easy now. So touchdowns 37 last year. I have him for just a slight little less, about 32, 33 there, about 7-8 touchdowns on the ground. So I'm not worried about Josh Allen at all. I mean, it's a great question. I've not once heard anybody, let's compare Josh Allen to Lamar Jackson, 2 different quarterbacks. One guy is all feet, and that's what he does, and legs and all that. Josh Allen, no issues from him. I saw him live, in Indianapolis years ago at the camp for them, and this kid has a cannon for an arm, 60, 70 yards without fail, and I have no qualms about Josh Allen coming up this year. And again, with him, there's no discount to be had. If you don't take him in the first 3 picks in a Superflex, you're not going to get him. You can't wait on a guy like
Right.
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen's really interesting to me. I wrote about him earlier this year. I think his completion percentage last year was something around 68%. And I think he was about the 8th or 9th highest in completion percentage last year. The year before that, he was 32nd in the league. And the year before that, he was 31st. And then I went back and looked at when he was at Wyoming, and he was low 50s there as well. So it's really interesting to me that he took such a massive leap last year. And I'm a huge subscriber to regression. I think, you look at Stephon Diggs' season, and he had like the greatest season of his career. And Josh Allen took this amazing step forward. I think they regress. Now, I don't think Josh Allen's like QB 11 and Stephon Diggs is wide receiver 17, but I do see them coming back a little bit. And that's the main reason why I have Kyler ahead of Josh Allen in my rankings. I think what Kyler has done in his seasons is more sustainable than what Josh Allen has done in his. But it's going to be interesting to watch because it's the same bloody offense and they haven't really changed much. John Brown out, Emmanuel Sanders in. I don't know if that makes a whole heck of a lot of difference. And they like to throw the football. So, and Allen can run. So he's still a top 3 guy, I think, for sure.
All right. That's all I've got. I do want to say, Brian said wide receivers that don't have a small breakout their rookie year have such a hard shot historically. I do not think, and you guys may feel different, but we cannot compare 2020 to every other year that we've had in history. I think 2020 is such an outlier in a unique season with these guys literally having no camp. We already know how hard it is for any rookie to come into the league, and we even seen it at running back. We talked about it earlier in the show. The running backs didn't start getting the bulk of the work, even though I think we could all agree that JT was the best back in Indianapolis. J.K. Dobbins was the best back in Baltimore, Akers in L.A., but it took them time to get up to speed, and that's an easier position than it even is at wide receiver. So I just think when we're talking about the Pittmans and the Ragers and the other guys that went in the first couple rounds of the draft, I think right now we could be getting them at a big discount, even if it's just consistency that we get out of these guys and not necessarily the blow up wide receiver one production is what I meant there. And then Clove says smash the like button.
Yeah,
like the button.
Sully, do you have anything to add here?
Just real quick on that wide receiver piece. Brian's right. So historically, top 100 drafted players in the NFL draft, wide receiver wise, that are rookies that don't really kind of pan out in year one, have a whole heck of a tough time coming back. But I do agree with you. Last year was a weird year. We're really been spoiled in terms of drafts, right? Like you go back to 2014, but the wide receiver class was unbelievable. 2017, the running back class was unbelievable. 2 years ago, 2018, the quarterback class where Allen and Baker and Lamar and all those guys came in. And then this year where we had a deep quarterback draft as well. Sometimes it takes guys a little bit of time, right? Like we're playing Dynasty, we're supposed to be patient, and I don't think necessarily we are. Like to the point in the question is, I like Henry Ruggs this year. I like Jalen Reagor this year, where they're going in their drafts comparative to where they may have gone the year before. Brian Edwards is another guy that's way down there that has some potential, and I'm not even a big fan. But if you can get the value in those players based on where they were, I think it's definitely worth a shot.
All right. Anything to add there, Chris? And then we're going to send this out.
I just want to show Denzel Mims some love real quick. I have his auto rookie card up here. I mean, it's Beastie's favorite card. I got a pic. She's laying with it. She absolutely loves Denzel Mims. And again, right now, in 10-team redraft leagues, Mims isn't even going drafted, and I don't think I'm kidding there. So Mims is going to be okay, especially with Zach Wilson there. Hopefully, this New York Jets offense is kind of an upstart thing. They'll get things going there. So just wanted to mention Mims really quick, boys.
All righty. Now, remind everybody where they can find your content and where to follow you so they can follow you.
Sure. I'm Chris Robin, absolutely. And you can find me on Twitter at Detroit Beastie. All my DFS content will 100% now be with Team or Rise or Fall. And I just want to say thank you to both of you, and thank you to anybody watching this live or who will listen to this. All the support and all the good comments and all the constructive, criticism and all the conversations I've had with everybody. The support means the world to me because, again, I know where my bread is buttered. Without anybody reading or consuming my content, I what's the point, right? Followers are kind of meaningless. It's how you are as a human being, as a man, that kind of defines you, not numbers and followers here. And again, I know I'm very thankful to all my, people who support and read my stuff and send me messages. So I just want to shout out everybody who does that. And so thank you so much.
I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come join us. I said it when I found out that I was filling in for Brad, and then I seen that you were the guest for this week. I said, this dude is one of my favorite follows on Twitter because it's always positive. The information that comes is good information, and you don't see a lot of that from a lot of people. So you're unique in that standpoint, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate you again taking that time to come and join us. I want to say thank you to everybody that helped with the mock draft, that joined the mock draft today. Make sure you go follow Chris everywhere that he told you to go follow him. Make sure you go to RotoHeat.com. Check out the great articles. As Sully said, he's been dropping an article every day for, I think what did you say? We're 46 days in now, 47 coming tomorrow.
If I remember correctly.
I'm a little ahead
47 days in.
I'm a little ahead of the curve because it's just how my brain works. But I think the 35th or 36th one dropped today.
Okay. So he's doing that. Obviously you see him every Tuesday night on this show, and then Monday night at 9:30 you see the IDP guys, Brad and Craig, and you can catch us all on Twitter. Just put in at RotoHeat, and you're gonna find all kinds of RotoHeat guys to follow. And if you like the GIFs, make sure you get in there and start chatting with Craig, because next thing you know, you'll be on a GIF.
100%. The guy's the man.
He's already made two of me, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. He's awesome. He's always and they happen so quick.
You're not somebody until you end up on a Craig GIF. I'm convinced that's how it is.
That's the unofficial way of knowing that you've made it.
That's how.
Gets you.
Forget the blue check. Forget the blue check.
Screw the blue check.
Twitter certified as being on a Craig GIF.
It was like a cartoon plane, zooming through space, and my head is bobbing on this weird body, and it says to the moon, and I'm just going off. I mean, I love it.
Love it.
Sounds like Craig for sure.
All right. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and we will see you next Tuesday on the Dynasty Heat Seekers.